You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 4. Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life.
In this episode, we're talking about how we're experimenting with slowing down. Let's get started. So, Josiane, what is this slowing down experiment all about?
It's simply about not going as fast in life and just taking the time to notice, taking the time to do things. Just what it says, slowing down.
So, I think the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about slowing down is that I don't have enough time to slow down. I have a million things on my list. I can't do them slower because if I do them slower, then I won't get everything done. So how does that work?
It's actually not about slowing down when we're looking at time. It's more just taking the time to take in what's happening in front of us, just noticing it, actually being in the moment. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
100%. Because before we started this slowing down experiment, which is really kind of just a shift in how you look at time, I started to recognize that in the moment, like I wasn't even paying attention to what I was doing. I was busy thinking of what's next. And that made me feel more rushed. It made me feel that I don't know, I was already on to the next thing in my mind, which made me really not be able to enjoy what I was actually doing. So slowing down became, for me, just like you said, noticing the little things. So one thing I started doing in the morning was actually smelling my coffee. I made coffee every single morning, and it didn't take me more time to take a big whiff of the coffee beans before I put them in the grinder, but it made that time so much more enjoyable. It was so cool that I felt like I had more time, even though I was using the same time. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm even thinking of like when you're in the shower, everybody takes a shower, but actually to notice how the water is falling on your head, you know, kind of just taking that time. You're going to shower anyway, but for some reason, when you're in that moment, it really changes time. It really slows down time.
Yeah. Like you're still taking a 5 or 10 minute shower, but your experience in those 10 minutes is enjoyable.
Yeah.
Rather than having your mind racing to what's next. And then all of a sudden you're shampooing while in your mind, you're like going to bed at night, you know?
Yeah.
Like you've already planned your entire day in your mind and you're on to the next thing already.
Or the opposite, where you're thinking about something that happened earlier today that really doesn't matter anymore because you're no longer in that moment, right?
Replaying something you did yesterday, like, oh, what if I said this differently? Or what if I did that differently? But it's already happened. So why would we use this precious moment we have right now, kind of wasting it by being in a different time in our minds?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just taking the moment in. Smelling the roses.
Yes. And it's such a simple concept, yet it is so difficult to really apply in life, in everyday life, when you're running from one thing to the other.
Yeah.
So what can we do to slow down?
I noticed, well, first off, that I started recognizing that I was rushing in my mind when I started a meditation practice. So when I actually sat down with myself in silence and set a timer for 5 minutes where I wasn't going to move for 5 minutes, I really started to notice where my mind was going. And personally, it was always on the future. It was planning for the next thing, for the next thing.
You were always a planner. The Kaylee I remember.
Oh my God. If anyone sees my agenda, like down to the last detail, I have this fear of forgetting things or, not being prepared for the next thing on my plate. So, it was those times of silence and being alone on my meditation cushion, which is actually just a rolled up blanket that I sit on. It's not fancy. I just started like noticing the patterns of where my mind was going. And then the feelings that brought me. So I noticed, okay, my mind is in the future and I'm rushing in my mind and it's making me feel frazzled. I think that's the best way to describe how I would feel all the time, was frazzled. Like, I just have this image of myself with my hair all in a mess, like rushing from one thing to the other and like, papers falling behind me.
I feel like most teachers can relate to that feeling too.
Yeah. So when I started noticing that, I just started actually to become aware then, like I learned this awareness during my mindfulness practice. And then I started picking up on when my mind was doing this during the day, and it was doing it a lot. So in the beginning, outwardly, no one probably would have noticed that I was making a shift. It was all in my mind. I was just starting to look at things differently and notice when I was planning for and being worried about the future, and then just taking a breath. Like I would take one deep breath and remind myself of what I'm doing right now and what's one little thing I can appreciate about this current moment. And that just like anchored me back in the present, brought me back to now.
That was a life-saving thing for me as a teacher. I taught myself, or I trained myself, I guess, to at every recess or every prep that I had when the students would leave, it was like I made it a habit that when they would leave, I would take 2 to 5 deep breaths. It took me a long time to really instill that habit. But once it was there, it was like all of a sudden my day went so much slower and I didn't feel frazzled, like you say, with the hair everywhere. Yeah. I totally know that feeling. Yeah, I just felt more like I had it together,
Yeah, it's almost like these little mini timeouts during your day where you, in the beginning, you set a specific time, like every time the students leave the classroom, I'm going to take a couple deep breaths. And it helps you to slow down the hamster wheel of your brain and do one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Oh, I was notorious for multitasking.
Yes, as are most teachers, I feel. And also just to notice what's going on in my mind right now, right? Like those 2 to 5 breaths just permitted me to be like, okay, slow down here. Like I need to do this and this and this and this, but you know what? What's the most important thing? And just to take a step back and look at what actually mattered in this moment.
Yeah.
And to move forward with just that one thing. So taking those breaths really helped me to figure that out instead of feeling like I had 100 things to get done at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you talked about choosing one thing. It's like I have a million things that need to get done, but I physically can't do all of them right now. So why would I let that take space up in my mind and distract me from what I can do now? So if I choose one task and complete that one task now, and then once I'm done, okay, what's my next one task? Okay, what's my next one task?
And then you can be more in the moment and enjoy doing that one task so much more.
Yeah. Okay, how many times have you been making a lesson plan and you're like, I know you, Josiane, love lesson plans and creating curriculum.
Creation is my favorite thing in the world.
Josiane makes all of our beautiful graphics for anything. She's very talented with making things look pretty.
Well, thank you.
But you can't even enjoy those pieces of your job that you love doing if you're too busy, being frantic and frazzled about what's coming next.
Yeah, or even sometimes I would sit down at the end of the school day to create something, but then I'd be like, oh, an email just popped up. Oh, this, like, someone just texted me. I don't know, I need to go do photocopies for this or whatever. It's like that breath just helped me be like, okay, no, right now what I'm doing is creating this. That email can wait. It's not an emergency. I'll answer it later.
Yes. Oh, I was so bad for getting distracted by things popping in and then having to, and I probably wasted so many minutes, so much time bouncing around between thoughts and tasks rather than just getting one thing done, finishing it and moving on to the next.
And this is something that you and I catch ourselves with still to this day, right? Like we choose to work on one task and then we get distracted by another, and we're still working on learning to, wait a second here. Too many things at once. Like, let's just slow down.
Yeah.
Let's just take do one thing at a time.
Go back to what we were originally working on, not this tangent that we've brought ourselves on, and get that one thing done.
Yeah. Well, you and I also sometimes get so excited about certain of the things that we're doing that we just, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we forgot that original thing that we were doing.
Yeah. We just can't help ourselves.
So my question for you is, how did you slow down time within the classroom as well? Was this only something that you practiced in your own life, or did you bring this to the classroom in any way?
I would say as I started to notice that this was making a difference in my own life, then I was like, I have to share this in my classroom. So it actually started with me taking little breathers during the day when I could feel my emotions shifting towards frustration or overwhelm. So it started out a lot like you, that when the students left the room, I would take a couple minutes to take some deep breaths. And then I started doing it in my classroom in front of my students. So we had our daily mindfulness practice as well every morning. So they were learning the skills of mindful breathing, just taking time to be still, to be quiet, and using our breath to calm ourselves, to calm our bodies. They had been learning that. So, for example, one thing that I would do is when the students were working on individual work, and it started to get too loud in the classroom, and I had used several attempts to lower the volume, and I could feel myself getting frustrated. I knew that getting to their level of energy, so moving my energy up and getting to like excitement, feeling frantic, getting louder voice-wise and energy-wise, was just going to bring me up to their level. And that wasn't going to help anyone, because then now we're all there, right? So I would walk to my desk. I would go behind my desk. I would put a drop of cedarwood essential oil in my hands.
I love it.
I would rub my hands together and cup them over my nose, take a deep breath. And then I would just wait for myself to go back to a state of calm before I went back to working with my students. And the cool thing that I noticed was that when I would go to take my own time, I would catch the students breathing with me. So It was like, I wasn't telling them to do it. They just saw me taking space, taking a little time out for myself, and they would often breathe with me. They would inhale with my inhale, exhale with my exhale. Because if it was frantic in the classroom and I was feeling frazzled, many of the students were feeling the exact same way, and they were getting frustrated by the noise. So they would just join in with me. And then it became this thing that they were so used to seeing me do that they recognized, oh, when she goes behind her desk and I smell this cedarwood smell, it means it's time to calm down. So it kind of just almost magically extended to my students and really made me a better teacher, because I learned how to calm myself down, and I could see the reflection of that calming in my students.
Well, you were modeling it is exactly what you were doing, right?
Yeah.
Like you were doing it maybe for yourself.
Yeah.
But I mean, when somebody takes a really deep breath in front of you, it's like it's contagious. You can't help but to just do it too, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like a yawn. You can't help but do it too.
Oh, because it feels so good to take a deep breath.
Yeah. Did you, Josiane, have anything that you brought into your classroom to help slow things down?
I would do, not with essential oils as much, but kind of same idea. Sometimes when I felt things get a little kind of out of control in the classroom, sometimes I would just shut the lights, but I wouldn't actually say anything. I would just maybe even close my eyes, because we also had a practice by then. And so the kids knew, what was going on. And I would just, take a deep breath or close my eyes, or even just go back to my desk for a minute without saying anything. And you could just feel the energy just going back to a calmer state.
Yeah.
So nice.
I almost think of it as like, when you have a jar with sparkles in it.
Yeah. It's one of our favorite tools.
Yeah, one of our favorite tools. And you shake it up. And then when it's shaken up, that's what the classroom energy is like. And if you get in there and you start shaking the jar too, you're only keeping the sparkles going. Yeah. But if you set the jar down and just let the sparkles settle, then the energy of the whole class just slowly settles. And it isn't always perfect, of course.
Of course not.
But it was a tool that, even if it meant that I could calm myself and take a breather for myself and slow my own self down.
And when you can calm yourself down, the students will naturally match that energy.
Yeah.
It's a mirror effect.
Yeah. I found that so fun to observe.
Yeah, because I found at first, when I was in my first years of teaching, when I would become frazzled, so would the kids, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And then just with, gaining that mindfulness practice and that self-awareness, I realized, like, why am I getting more frazzled when they get frazzled? And we all get more and more and more frazzled, right?
Yeah.
Why not just try to calm myself and see what happens?
Yeah.
And that, and another thing I would do sometimes is, if I felt that the energy was a little out there, we would have a morning meeting, but that I think I talked about in the last episode or the one before, but where we would just sit in a circle, even if it was in the afternoon or whenever, and just like talk about what's going on. Like, why are we feeling why is our energy so high? Why are we so frustrated or feeling frazzled? And just kind of talk about it, just to bring that energy back down.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you just need to talk about it.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. Just a check-in with the students, and it allows them to self-reflect and say, oh, why am I so excitable right now? And then with the mindfulness practice that you're doing every day with them, then they also have tools. I know with my class, sometimes they really were very chatty. So doing a lesson where I was like speaking in front of the class and writing something on the whiteboard, which I did rarely because it
wasn't that kind of group.
It wasn't that kind of group. It was a hands-on movement kind of group. But when I really had to teach something and they really needed to listen and there was chattiness, I would just stop. I would take a deep breath, and then sometimes I would invite them to join me. Or I would model like 5-finger breathing or balloon belly breathing, and I would just let them join in with me. And then once it was silent again, I would just keep going as if nothing happened. And it was, just modeling.
That's so nice.
Modeling, oh, we're excited now. I noticed that I'm excited. What tools do I have to calm down? Yeah. Let's use those tools.
Yeah.
And then, okay, now we're good. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if it was the same for you, because just teaching grade 4, like sometimes I could really feel that they just needed to move. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they were really excited and the energies were all over the place just because they needed to get off their chair. So sometimes I would just get them to like start stretching or do movements that are like where they're moving yet they're still calming. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're not having them like jumping off the walls.
Yeah.
But recognizing that, oh, I'm agitated right now. I'm having a hard time sitting still because my body feels energetic. So what can I do to help get some of that energy out? Let's do some breathing, stretching.
Yoga poses.
Yeah. And then, okay, now that I've satisfied my body's needs for movement, let's get back into it. Yeah. So it isn't like you're using that movement as a reward or as a punishment. It's just part of the day. It's just a tool we use.
Yeah.
It's like using the dictionary when you need to know what a word means.
Or even like using that jar that you were talking about. I mean, I had jars like that in my class, so students knew that they could go and just shake it and stare at it until it was the sparkles were at the bottom, and then they could go back to work after.
Yeah, that was a really good tool. That one worked really well for me as well in my classroom. Just shake the jar, sit there, watch the sparkles settle.
And I know you use the bracelets a lot too.
Yeah. So with the bracelets, it's just a bracelet with beads on it. So kind of a mala bracelet, but it's a fun activity to do with the students. And, you can easily work that into the curriculum depending on the age group. You can do patterns or different things with the bracelet. And then the idea is that they always have it on their wrist. And when they're feeling that they need to calm down, they count the beads on their bracelet with every breath. So that was a really awesome tool. And some of my students loved it. Some of them liked the bracelet more. Some of them liked the jar more. Some of them didn't like any of those tools. And it was up to them to choose what worked best for them.
But those were all amazing tools to just help slow down.
Yeah, exactly. So in the classroom, I often would feel like there was always this sense of rush, like we have to rush from one thing to the other. And I know you said that you started slowing down that process. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so a lot just with starting the day with a mindfulness practice. And when I started teaching, I always had this like long list of stuff they had to get done. If you're done the main thing that we're doing, then you got to do this and this and this. And that wasn't helpful for the students. They weren't learning more. Like I had to learn that when we slow down, they actually learn a lot more because they're actually absorbing the information, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're taking our time so they have the time to learn.
Yeah.
I feel like I was always so rushed. And with this mindfulness practice, with the morning meetings that I did, with these random movement breaks and taking a few minutes for a couple breaths or whatever, it slowed us down. And then it made me realize just how much more the kids were taking from their day.
Yeah. Instead of rushing from one lesson to the other, like I have to get this one and this one and this one done, actually letting them really digest the first lesson. And if they can really digest less, but it becomes a solid foundation for them, it's actually easier to move on forward. It reminds me a little bit of practicing yoga. It's like, if you take the time to really get your foundation in a yoga pose, then you can move a lot further. But if you're rushing through and you're not setting your foundation, then you're wobbly. So just take that time, take that breather a little bit longer to set the foundation.
And that gives opportunities also for good discussions. Like one thing I noticed once I stopped rushing is that I would have the most amazing conversations with the students, and I would learn that they knew way more than I thought they knew. And we could go way more in depth.
Yeah.
On all topics.
Taking that time to step back and talk with them is the best. You're making connections with them. And also, like you said, you're really seeing what they're actually learning and getting to hear it back in their own words. That's so powerful.
I love it.
Yeah. So if you're interested in trying the slow down experiment in your own life and maybe in your classroom with your students, a great place to start is just taking a couple breaths or taking a moment to really notice what is going on in this present moment during transition times. So like we said, as soon as the students leave the classroom, or maybe all together when they first come into the classroom, you start a lesson by all taking a breath together. Lots of ways to try this, and we're so excited to see how you're experimenting with this in your own life and in your classroom. Connect with us on Instagram and let us know how it's going. You can find us at EduCalm. That's EduCalme. And if you would like to try out making the mindfulness sparkle jar with the kiddos in your life, we have put up the recipe for this activity in the Balanced Educator free resources library. You can find it by going to www.educalme, that's educalme.com, then click on Learn. It'll bring you to our online school, and you can sign up for free to get all of our freebies in the Balanced Educator free resources section. Thank you so much for listening. We're so glad you were here.
Have a great week.